Aaron returned home late from the orbital dock. His shift had been long, filled with the usual noise of engines, the smell of fuel, and the endless fixing of broken parts. He was tired, his hands sore and his eyes heavy. All he wanted was to collapse on his bed and forget about the day. The small unit he called home was quiet when the door slid open. He stepped inside and dropped his tool bag by the wall. The light strips on the ceiling glowed dim, just as he had left them. Nothing seemed out of place at first, but then he froze. Someone was sitting on his bed. Aaron's heart jumped. He stared at the figure in shock. It was a young woman, calm and still, as if she had been waiting for him. Her posture was relaxed, her hands folded on her lap, her eyes steady on him. She did not move when he entered, did not flinch, did not look guilty for being where she should not be. Instead, she looked at him as though this was her place, as though she belonged there forever. Aaron's voice came out sharper than he intended. "Who are you? How did you get in here?" The girl tilted her head slightly, as if studying him. Her voice was soft but clear. "I am Myra." The name meant nothing to him. Aaron glanced quickly around the room. The door had been locked, the window sealed, and his small unit was too high above the street for anyone to climb. No tools were disturbed. Nothing seemed broken. There was no sign of forced entry. Yet here she was, calm on his bed. He took a step back toward the door panel, ready to call for security. Myra raised her hand slowly, not in threat, but as if to ease his worry. "Do not be afraid. I am not here to harm you." Aaron narrowed his eyes. "Then why are you here?" Myra held his gaze. "Because you will need me." The answer only made his confusion grow. He had no family nearby, no close friends who would send someone to him, and certainly no stranger who would wait in his room. Her words sounded too certain, too final, as though she knew something he did not. Aaron hesitated. Something about her presence was strange. She did not look frightened, nor did she look like an intruder. Her calmness unsettled him, yet at the same time, it kept him from shouting for help. It was as if her stillness carried weight, a kind of quiet authority that made him pause. Trying to steady his voice, he asked, "Where did you come from?" Myra's lips curved into the faintest of smiles. "Far from here." Too far to explain now. Aaron frowned. He noticed then that her clothes were unlike anything he had seen in the city. They were simple, but made of a fabric that shimmered faintly under the light, almost alive in the way it shifted colors. Her hair was dark and smooth, her skin pale but not sickly, and her eyes seemed to hold a depth he could not place. He thought of all the possibilities. Was she some kind of advanced android? A spy with new technology? Or was this simply a strange trick? None of it fit. Aaron tried another question. "How do you know my name?" "You are Aaron," she answered without pause. "You repair ships at the dock. Today you fixed 3 engine cores and argued with your foreman about the schedule. You came home tired, as you always do." Aaron's breath caught. She was correct. Too correct. He had not seen her at the dock, had not spoken to her before. Yet she knew the details of his day as if she had been standing beside him. He forced himself to stay steady. "How do you know all that?" Myra's expression remained calm. "I observe. I learn. That is why I am here." Her tone was not proud, not arrogant, only certain. Aaron felt a chill crawl down his neck. The room, once familiar, now felt foreign with her presence. And yet, deep inside, he noticed something else. Despite the strangeness, despite the questions filling his mind, he did not feel danger. There was no threat in her eyes, no malice in her voice, only calm, steady patience. He lowered his hand from the door panel. "You need to explain more," he said quietly. "I will," Myra replied. "But not tonight. Tonight you must rest." The words made him blink. Rest? How could he rest with a stranger on his bed? But the tiredness in his body reminded him of the long day. He should have been on edge, yet the weight of fear lessened in her presence. Instead, a strange peace settled over him, as though his mind accepted what his reason could not. He watched her for another moment. She did not move, did not push, did not speak further. She simply waited, calm as ever. Finally, Aaron sighed. "This doesn't make sense," he muttered. He sat on the chair by the wall, not daring to share the bed with her, and leaned back, still watching. His eyes grew heavy, though his thoughts raced. Who was Myra? Why was she here? And why did he feel, against all logic, that she truly belonged in this room? As sleep began to pull at him, her quiet voice was the last thing he heard. "Do not fear, Aaron. I am where I should be." Aaron woke early the next morning, though he had slept in his chair rather than on the bed. His back ached from the stiff seat, and his head felt heavy. But the first thought that came to him was not about work or breakfast. It was about the girl. He turned his head, half expecting the bed to be empty, that all of it had been a strange dream. But Myra was still there. She sat in the same calm way as the night before, hands folded, posture relaxed, watching him with eyes that seemed too steady for someone so human. "You stayed," Aaron said slowly. "I told you," Myra replied in the same soft voice. "I am where I should be." Her tone was not sharp or defensive. It was matter of fact, like she was explaining something simple. Aaron rubbed his face with his hands. The logical part of his mind screamed that he should report her. No stranger should sit in his room without reason. Yet when he looked at her, he felt the same strange peace as last night, a feeling that kept him from pressing the alarm. "Look," he began, trying to sound firm. "You can't just sit here forever. I don't even know what you want. Who sent you?" "No one sent me," Myra said. "I came because you will need me." The same answer as before. Aaron shook his head in frustration. "That doesn't explain anything. Why me? What could you possibly know about me?" Myra tilted her head, studying him again. "I know you think of yourself as ordinary. You work, you grow tired, you believe your life has little weight beyond the machines you repair. But you are wrong. Your choices will matter." Aaron blinked at her. The words unsettled him. How could she say such things with such certainty? He laughed dryly, though there was little humor in it. "You sound like someone from a story. I fix broken engines. That's it. I'm not special." Myra's calm never wavered. "You are human. That is what makes you special." The words hung in the air. Aaron did not know how to respond. Of course he was human. Everyone around him was. What did she mean by saying it like that? Before he could ask, Myra spoke again. "You doubt me. That is natural. Doubt is part of your kind. But still, I know you. Yesterday, at the dock, when the engine core would not restart, you found the fault in the wiring pattern when others failed. You chose to act when others hesitated. That is not ordinary." Aaron froze. She was right. He remembered the moment clearly. The repair team had almost given up before he noticed the hidden fault. He had fixed it quickly and argued with the foreman for not checking properly. But how could she know? She had not been there. His voice lowered. "Were you watching me at the dock?" Myra shook her head. "I do not need to stand beside you to see. I learn in other ways." Aaron felt the chill again. Was she an advanced machine, able to access the city's data? Or was she something else entirely? He wanted to push her for answers, but her calm gaze made him hesitate. "Why tell me all this?" He asked finally. "If you're not here to harm me, then what are you here for?" "To remind you," Myra said. "To show you that your kind carries something that others do not." Aaron frowned. "What others?" Myra did not answer right away. She looked toward the window, where the faint light of the rising sun crept through the thin shades. "There are many who travel the stars," she said at last, "but they do not have what you have. They cannot change what they are. You can." Her words were simple yet heavy. Aaron could not decide if she was speaking nonsense or something deeper than he could understand. He leaned back in his chair and exhaled slowly. "This doesn't make sense." "It will," Myra said. "In time." The day moved forward, and Aaron had to prepare for his shift. He half expected her to vanish when he left, but as he gathered his tools, Mira remained seated on the bed, calm and silent. "You're not leaving, are you?" he asked. "No," she replied. "I will be here when you return." Her certainty unsettled him. Yet again, he did not argue. He only gave her one last look before stepping out of the unit and locking the door behind him, dotted the dock. His thoughts kept drifting back to her. He made mistakes on small repairs, distracted by the image of Myra's steady eyes. He wondered if he was losing his mind. Maybe she was some trick of exhaustion, some dream he had not woken from. But when he returned late that evening, the truth struck him again. She was still there, sitting calmly on the bed, watching him as if he had never left. Aaron dropped his bag and stared at her. "You really mean to stay, don't you?" "Yes," Myra said. "Until you understand." Her words carried no threat, only patience. Aaron sighed, a mix of weariness and curiosity filling him. He still had no answers, but one thing was clear. Myra was no ordinary intruder. And though he could not explain why, a part of him already knew that her presence would change everything. Days passed, and Mira did not leave. Aaron tried at first to ignore her, hoping she would simply vanish if he paid her no attention. But each night, when he returned from the dock, she was still there, sitting calmly on his bed, as though she had always belonged in that space. She never asked for food, never touched his things, and never made a sound unless he spoke to her. What unsettled him more was the way her presence began to feel normal. On the first night, he had been shocked, almost ready to call security. But by the third night, it no longer felt strange to see her there. It was as if her stillness had blended into the rhythm of his life. Aaron would sit in his chair by the wall, tired from work, and Mira would watch him quietly. Sometimes she spoke, asking simple questions about his repairs, about the machines, about the ships that came and went from the dock. She seemed deeply interested, even though she never wrote anything down or carried any device to record. One evening, when he returned home, he finally asked her directly, "Why do you never eat? Why do you never sleep? No one can just sit for days and remain the same." Myra looked at him with her steady eyes. "I do not need what you need. My body is not like yours." Aaron froze. "Then, what are you?" "I am Myra," she said simply. "That's not an answer," Aaron replied sharply. "If you're not like me, then tell me what you are." For a long moment, Myra was silent. She lowered her gaze, as if deciding whether or not to reveal more. Finally, in a voice calm but heavy, she said, "I am not from here." Aaron frowned. "Not from this city?" "Not from this world," Myra corrected. The room fell quiet. The hum of the ceiling lights seemed louder. The sound of the distant street drifted faintly through the window, but Aaron barely heard any of it. His heart beat hard in his chest. "You mean, you're not human?" he whispered. "I am not as you are," Myra said, "but I am not against you. My people are far away, beyond the places you know. For them, your kind is only a story, a memory of wanderers who once traveled far into the stars. I came because I wished to see if the stories were true." Aaron shook his head, trying to understand. "That's impossible. You're telling me aliens know about us? That they talk about us like myths?" "Yes," Myra answered. "Among my people, Humans are not seen as real, only as legend. They say long ago, there were beings who dared to leave what they knew, who carried courage in their hearts. But no one believed those beings were still out there. Aaron's breath caught. The thought was overwhelming. He worked every day with ships, but those ships never left far from the colonies, never crossed the deep reaches of space. To him, the universe had always been a place too vast to think about. And yet Myra spoke of it as though she had seen it all. Why me? Aaron asked quietly. Why come to me of all people? Myra lifted her eyes again. Because you are human. You represent what I came to find. Aaron almost laughed. I fix broken ships. That's it. I'm not important. To you, maybe not, Myra said. But to me, you are proof. I came to learn if the courage of your kind still exists. I see it in you. Even in the smallest actions. Even in the way you argue with your foreman when you know you are right. You carry what others cannot. Aaron looked down at his hands. They were scarred from years of repairs. The hands of someone who had worked without rest. Someone ordinary. And yet Mira spoke as though those scars meant something greater. He shook his head. I don't understand why it matters. If your people don't believe humans exist, what difference does it make? It makes every difference, Myra replied. Her voice was calm but strong. Because if they know you are real, they will remember. They will see that courage has not vanished from the stars. That your kind still belongs. Aaron felt a strange weight in her words. He had never thought of himself as more than a worker, a simple man trying to survive. But Myra's gaze made him wonder if there was something more, something hidden even from himself. Finally, he asked the question that had been burning since she arrived. If your people think humans are only stories, what will they do when they learn the truth? Mira was silent for a moment. Then she said softly, that depends on what they see in you. Aaron swallowed hard. The calm in her voice carried a deeper meaning. It was not just curiosity that brought her here. It was judgment, observation, maybe even a test. The silence between them grew heavy, and Aaron leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. He wanted to deny it all, to say she was wrong, that she was only making up tales. Yet a part of him, the part that had always wondered about the stars, felt that she was telling the truth. When he looked back at her, Mira was still seated calmly on the bed. Her expression did not change, but her presence filled the room with quiet certainty. Aaron realized then that his life had already changed. The secret she carried was too large to ignore. And whether he wanted it or not, he was now part of it. Aaron could not stop thinking about Myra's words. Each day at the dock, he worked with his hands, but his mind kept drifting back to the quiet girl who had appeared in his room. Her calmness, her certainty, and the strange knowledge she carried weighed on him like a heavy stone in his chest. One evening, as he returned home, he found her still on the bed, waiting. Her posture was the same, calm and collected, but there was a depth in her eyes that made him pause. It was as if she carried the weight of countless years, even though she appeared young. Sit, Myra said softly. We need to speak. Aaron obeyed, though his mind raced. He had tried to understand her, to push her away, to ignore the impossible truth she had brought into his life. But every question led to another, and every answer only made him feel smaller in the vastness of the universe she described. I want to know, he said quietly. Tell me why I am here, why you are here, and what your people expect from me. Mira nodded, her calm expression never wavering. I will tell you what I can. You must understand that my words are not simple. They carry truth that humans rarely remember. Long ago, your kind traveled across the stars, far beyond what you now know. You built civilizations, reached planets unknown, and left marks on worlds no one else could reach. Aaron blinked. That cannot be true. Humans barely reached the colonies above the core planets. How could we have gone beyond? Your kind could, Myra said. And you still can. That is why I am here. To see if humans still carry what they once carried. Courage, curiosity, the strength to face the unknown. It is in you in small ways, but it is enough. Aaron leaned back, struggling to make sense of her words. You're saying humans were explorers once. Not just workers, not just settlers, but travelers of the stars? Yes, Myra said. And your people forgot. Some remembered, but the memory faded. That is why I watch. That is why I came to you. You are proof that what was lost may still exist. Aaron felt a strange mixture of pride and fear. How could one ordinary man like him carry the weight of such a truth? He had spent his life repairing engines and ships, worrying about schedules and parts, never dreaming he could matter beyond his small world. Yet Myra's gaze told him he did. You said your people are watching? He asked carefully. Who are they? Why does it matter what they think? They are far from here, Myra said. Beyond the systems, you know. They study the stars, but they do not interfere. They look for humans because your kind is unusual. Among all the beings who travel the galaxy, humans are rare. You have the choice to change what seems fixed, to create where others only follow. That is why I am here. Aaron rubbed his temples. The truth of her words pressed down on him like a heavy weight. He had lived a simple life, and now he was told that his actions mattered not just for him, but for the memory of his entire species. Why me? He whispered. Why did you choose me of all people? Myra's eyes softened. Because you still act. You still care. You still question. Others have grown comfortable with limits. You do not. The simplicity of her statement struck him deeply. He had always believed he was ordinary. Yet in her eyes, he was more than that. He was someone who could remind others of what humans were capable of. Someone who could carry the memory of courage into the future. Aaron's chest tightened with the weight of her words. He wanted to argue, to deny that he could matter so much. But the calm in Myra's presence was impossible to resist. She made him feel as though the entire world had narrowed to this room, and everything depended on the choices he would make. What if I fail? He asked quietly. What if I am not enough? Then you will try again, Myra said. That is what humans do. That is why your kind still belongs among the stars. Even failure is proof that you have strength. Even doubt is proof that you act. Aaron stared at her, amazed at her certainty. He had never felt so small and yet so significant at the same time. It was terrifying and inspiring. For the first time, he began to see himself not just as a worker, but as someone who could make a difference, someone whose choices could ripple far beyond his own world. Myra's presence was quiet, and it carried authority. Aaron realized that she had not come to command him, nor to threaten him. She had come to awaken something he had never known existed. Something that had been forgotten by humans, but never lost. I don't know if I can do this, Aaron said finally. You will, Myra said, because you already are. Courage is not always loud or visible. It begins in small actions, in simple choices. And you have chosen to act every day without knowing it. Aaron sat in silence, feeling the weight of her words settle over him. The ordinary life he had thought he understood no longer seemed simple. Everything had changed in the space of a few days, and yet he felt a strange clarity. The burden was heavy, but it was also a gift. He had been chosen not by chance, but because he still carried the spark of what humans once were. For the first time, Aaron understood that Myra's calmness was not only her nature. It was her way of teaching him patience, focus, and the strength to accept the truth. And in that realization, he felt a stirring of determination he had never known before. He looked at her quietly. "I understand," he said at last. "I will try. I will do what I can." Mira's calm smile was the only reply he needed. In her presence, the weight of knowledge no longer felt unbearable. It was a challenge, a mission, a reminder that humanity still mattered in a universe that had almost forgotten it. And for the first time, Aaron felt ready to face the unknown. The days grew heavier for Aaron. Myra's calm presence had become a part of his life, and yet it brought a strange unease he could not shake. At the dock, he moved faster than before, repaired engines more efficiently, and solved problems that had once seemed impossible. His colleagues noticed the change, though they could not explain it. Something had shifted in him, though he could not name exactly what. Myra did not speak much during the day. She remained in his room, sitting on the bed with the same steady gaze. Sometimes, when he returned from work, she would comment on small details of his day. "You handled the reactor core well," she said one evening. "You did not panic when the pressure rose beyond normal." "That is what I watch for." Aaron frowned. "How do you know?" "I watch," she said simply. The calm in her voice both comforted and unnerved him. He wanted to ask questions, but the answers might not be meant for him yet. He had learned already that patience was part of Myra's nature. Every answer came in its time. But the quiet days were not without tension. Others began to notice her. At first, it was small. A lingering glance from a neighbor, a subtle questioning from a colleague who stopped by his unit. Then, one afternoon, officials arrived at the orbital dock. They did not ask about him directly at first, but their eyes scanned every worker with unusual precision. Something about their attention unsettled him. "Aaron," one of them said finally, speaking through a communicator, "we need to speak with you regarding your living unit. There have been reports of unusual activity." Aaron swallowed hard. Unusual activity. The word echoed in his mind. Myra, the girl on his bed. She was calm now, but if anyone discovered her presence, the consequences could be serious. He walked carefully back to his unit, every step heavy with worry. The thought of Mira being discovered made his heart race. She had done nothing wrong, yet her presence alone could create suspicion. When he entered, she was waiting as always, calm and composed. Her gaze met his, and he felt the weight of unspoken understanding pass between them. "They are asking questions," he said quietly. "About you." Mira did not react with fear. "Then we must prepare," she said. "You cannot hide from the world forever, but you can protect what is important." Aaron nodded. He had already begun to feel the responsibility pressing on him. Protecting her was no longer optional. It had become necessary. That night, he moved quietly around his small unit. He closed the blinds, checked the locks, and rearranged his belongings to create small barriers that would slow any investigation. Mira watched him silently, as if observing his ability to think, to act, to make choices under pressure. "You are learning quickly," she said. "That is why I am here. Not just to observe, but to help you see your own strength." Aaron felt a strange mixture of pride and fear. Her words encouraged him, but the reality of the situation pressed down like a heavy stone. Officials might return at any moment. If they discovered her, questions would be asked that he could not answer. Days passed, and the tension grew. He noticed other anomalies at the dock, strange signals in the communication lines, unusual scans on his ship designs, and occasional observers whose faces he did not recognize. Each detail added to his worry, but Mira remained calm, a steady presence amidst the rising storm. One evening, as he sat at the table reviewing his ship schematics, Myra spoke again. "You are ready," she said. "Ready?" Aaron asked, startled. "For what?" "For what is coming," she replied. "The world will notice. Choices will be required. And you will show what humans can do when they are needed most." Aaron ran a hand through his hair, feeling the pressure mount. He had always thought his life was ordinary, fixing engines, following schedules, surviving day by day. But now, with Mira by his side, he saw that life had changed. Every action carried weight. Every decision mattered. The next day, officials returned to his unit. They did not come with hostility, only with questions. They asked about visitors, about activity in the building, and about unusual signals. Aaron answered carefully, revealing nothing about Myra. His calmness, taught by her steady presence, helped him speak with certainty, even as his heart raced. When the officials left, Myra's eyes met his. "You acted well," she said. "Your courage is small but true. That is what they measure." Aaron nodded, though his mind was still restless. He had learned something important. Calmness, careful observation, and quick thinking were as valuable as courage. And Myra had taught him all three. That night, he watched her sitting on the bed as always, calm and unyielding. He realized that her presence was no longer strange or frightening. It was necessary. The tension, the danger, and the weight of the world were all part of the lessons she had brought with her. He understood now that Mira was not simply a visitor. She was a guide, a reminder, and a challenge. And as long as she remained, he would have to rise to meet what was coming. Aaron settled into the chair, exhausted but alert. The rising tension in the city, in his life, and in the universe beyond was undeniable. But for the first time, he felt ready to face it, knowing that the calm figure on his bed was not just a presence, but a reason to believe in his own strength. Aaron could feel the weight of every passing hour. Mira remained calm on his bed, her eyes watching him as he moved through his small unit. Her presence had become a constant, steadying force, yet the knowledge she carried made the days heavier. He had learned more in the past week than he had in years, but with each lesson came a new question. How much could he trust her, and how much would the world allow him to protect? The officials had returned once again. This time, their questions were more direct. They asked about signals, unusual visitors, and data anomalies in the city grid. Aaron answered carefully, revealing nothing about Myra. Each time he spoke, he felt the eyes of the authorities pressing into him. He knew they suspected something, but he did not know what they were ready to do if they discovered the truth. That night, as he returned home, he found Myra waiting, calm as always. She did not speak immediately. She only regarded him with a quiet intensity, as if measuring his resolve. "They are close to discovering us," she said softly. "Soon, choices will need to be made. You must decide what matters more, your safety or what I represent." Aaron felt his stomach tighten. He had always lived cautiously, avoiding unnecessary risk. Yet now, the decision demanded courage. Mira was not only a stranger. She carried knowledge of faraway worlds, of a people who saw humans as stories, as legends. To protect her was to risk everything he had ever known. "I don't understand," he said quietly. "If I protect you, what happens?" "What do they want?" "They want proof," Myra said. "Proof that humans still carry the spark that once spread across the stars. If they see it, they will remember. If I am captured, they will assume the humans no longer deserve remembering." That is why you must choose carefully." Aaron swallowed hard. His mind raced. He had always believed he was ordinary, that his life mattered only in small ways. Now, the survival of his kind's legacy rested on his choice. To protect Myra meant risking his freedom, possibly even his life. To hand her over meant safety, but it also meant abandoning the proof of humanity's courage. He looked at her calmly seated on the bed, her expression unreadable. For all her quietness, he felt her trust in him. He felt that she believed he could rise to the occasion, even when he doubted himself. "I don't know if I can do this," he admitted. What if I fail? You will not fail, Mira said, because the choice itself carries power. The act of trust, the act of protection, is what matters. Courage is not only measured in victory, but in commitment. You have already acted by keeping me safe this long. Now you must act again and choose fully. Aaron sat down heavily in the chair. His hand shook slightly. He had never faced anything like this before. He had repaired engines, argued with foremen, survived long shifts. But nothing had prepared him for a decision that carried consequences far beyond his small life. The night was quiet, but Aaron could feel the world outside growing tense. The officials would return. Observers might be watching, waiting for a mistake. Every moment of hesitation could put Myra at risk. He closed his eyes, trying to sort his thoughts. He remembered Myra's calmness, her quiet certainty, and the words she had spoken about human courage. Something inside him stirred. A part he had never acknowledged, the part that wanted to rise above fear, to act when it mattered, to choose honor over safety. Aaron opened his eyes and looked at her. "I will protect you," he said firmly. "No matter what comes, I will keep you safe." Mira smiled, just slightly. "Then you have made the right choice. That is proof enough. Even in the eyes of my people, it will matter. They will see what humans still carry." Aaron felt a mixture of relief and determination. The decision was made, yet the consequences were only beginning. He knew that the next days would test him in ways he could not imagine. But for the first time, he felt certain that he could face whatever came, as long as he acted with courage and trust. The next morning, he began preparations. He secured his unit, rearranged his belongings, and planned routes of escape should the officials return. He studied the patterns of their visits and considered ways to mislead them, though he had no intention of fleeing. Every choice was a test, every action a measure of his resolve. Mira observed silently. She offered advice only when necessary, pointing out gaps in his planning or suggesting small changes to improve safety. Her guidance was calm, precise, and unobtrusive. Aaron realized that her presence was not a burden, but a partner in his responsibility. She did not take over. She taught him how to act fully on his own. As night fell, Aaron sat in the chair and looked at her. She was calm, steady, and unyielding. He could feel the weight of the world in her gaze, but he no longer felt overwhelmed. He had chosen, and in that choice, he found strength. "I will not fail," he whispered quietly. "I will protect you, and I will show them what humans are capable of." Myra's eyes reflected approval, but more than that, they reflected trust. She had chosen to place a part of her mission in his hands. And now, Aaron knew that he could rise to meet it. The night passed slowly, but with each hour, he felt more certain. The choice of trust had been made, and with it came responsibility, courage, and a determination he had never known. He understood that the coming days would test him, but he was ready, because he had chosen. And choosing, he realized, was the first step to proving the strength of humanity. The following days tested Aaron in ways he had never imagined. Myra remained on the bed, calm and quiet as always, but outside the unit, the city seemed sharper, louder, and more observant. The officials returned several times, asking questions about his life, his work, and any unusual activity. Each visit required careful answers, patience, and precise action. The weight of every word and choice pressed on him like never before. Despite the tension, Aaron felt a new strength growing inside him. He moved quickly and confidently at the dock, repaired engines with skill that surprised even his foreman, and anticipated problems before they arose. His colleagues began to notice the change. Aaron no longer seemed like the quiet, ordinary worker. There was a clarity in his movements and decisions, a steady focus that had been missing before. At home, Myra observed in silence. She offered advice. Only when necessary. her calm presence guiding him through the delicate balance between normal life and the secret they now shared. She did not interfere, but her eyes reflected the knowledge that he was preparing for something greater than himself. One evening, as he returned from work, he found a message waiting on his terminal. It was brief, but the words carried weight. "They are coming. You must act." Aaron's heart raced. He knew that the authorities had finally discovered enough to move beyond questions. They would attempt to enter his unit and find Mira. There was no time to hesitate. He looked at her, calm and serene, sitting as if nothing was about to change. "It's time," he said quietly. Myra nodded. "You know what to do." Aaron moved with precision. He secured the entry points, created small diversions using the equipment around his unit, and prepared to mislead anyone who attempted to enter. Every decision was careful, every movement deliberate. Myra's quiet guidance helped him act with confidence. He realized that her presence was not only comfort, but a catalyst for action. When the officials arrived, Aaron met them with calmness he did not feel inside. He answered questions politely, guided them through false leads, and subtly redirected their attention. Their suspicion grew, but they could not pinpoint anything. Each minute Aaron bought was a minute to protect Myra and her secret. Inside the unit, Myra remained seated. She did not hide or act fearful. Her calmness reinforced his own courage. He realized that she trusted him completely, and that trust became the foundation for his actions. Every choice he made was informed by the knowledge that failure was not an option. Humanity's story, the one Myra had come to verify, rested on his ability to act wisely and bravely. As the hours passed, the tension escalated. The officials scanned the area, communicated with their teams, and reviewed data from nearby sensors. Aaron stayed focused, anticipating their moves and adjusting his strategy. His mind worked quickly, but he moved with patience. Myra's presence reminded him that haste was dangerous, and that careful thinking was a strength in itself. Finally, the officials left, frustrated and unable to find evidence of unusual activity. Aaron exhaled, relief washing over him, but he did not relax completely. Myra's eyes met his, and he saw approval. Not just for his actions, but for the courage he had shown in choosing to protect her despite the risk. "You acted well," Myra said softly. "You proved what humans can do. Even when the world watches, even when the outcome is uncertain, you chose trust and courage over fear. That is what matters." Aaron nodded, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment he had never known. He realized that he had been tested not just in action, but in character. He had risen to the challenge, and in doing so, he had become more than the ordinary worker he once believed himself to be. "You carried the proof," Myra continued. "Proof that humans still have courage, still have strength, and still belong among the stars. My people will know, and they will remember." Aaron felt a surge of pride. It was not just his own actions, but the actions of humanity itself that Myra had recognized. He had played a role in a story far larger than himself. The next day, Myra prepared to leave. Aaron watched quietly as she stood, calm and composed. She turned to him, her eyes reflecting gratitude and trust. "You sat on my bed calmly," Aaron said softly, "and I did not understand, but now I do. You believed in me before I believed in myself." Myra's expression softened. "I sat there calmly because I knew. I knew that humans still carried the courage, the hope, and the will to act. That is why I chose you. You are not alone. Your kind is not forgotten." She stepped toward the small transport waiting outside the building. Aaron felt a mix of sadness and pride. He had protected her, faced the tension and fear, and now it was time for her to continue her journey. Before she departed, Myra smiled faintly. "Remember, Aaron, courage is not always loud. It begins in quiet choices, in actions that others may not see. Humans still have that. And that is why you belong among the stars forever. With that, she boarded the transport and disappeared into the sky, leaving Aaron standing at the window. He watched the vessel fade into the distance, carrying the knowledge of humanity's courage to worlds he had only dreamed of. Alone in his unit, Aaron felt a sense of peace. He had faced fear, made difficult choices, and proven himself worthy of the trust placed in him. The ordinary life he once believed defined him had transformed into something extraordinary. He realized that humans, even in small ways, carried a spark that could light the darkest places, overcome the greatest challenges, and rise above the impossible. Aaron sat quietly on his chair, reflecting on what had passed. Mira had come, calm and unyielding, to remind him of humanity's potential. And he had risen to the challenge. For the first time, he truly understood what it meant to belong. Not just to a room, not just to a city, but to a story that stretched across the stars. Humanity had proven itself,